here we are in 2026, and you're still fighting for equity for women in the workplace and in the community, and how women are such drivers and such a force. Welcome to StaffBuffalo's Pain Points Podcast. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Pain Points Podcast. I'm Lauren Lewis, and I'm here today with Sheri Scavone, CEO of the Western New York Women's Foundation. Sheri, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'd love to have you start by kind of telling us your background. Sure. What brought you to your role as CEO of Western New York Women's Foundation?
Sure. I started out as a physical therapist, actually, and still love the profession, still love healthcare, did some healthcare administration, some public health. And this is really a culmination of all of that. I always believe that nonprofits are the organizations where the work gets done, are the service organizations in our community, are providing the care and the outreach and understand holistically people so well. They're not profit driven, so they're really mission driven. And so this is a fabulous fit for me. Fixing things as I did as a PT, and looking at things broadly as I did with public health and understanding social economic determinants of health and other issues, and also a lot of advocacy that we do. So I actually learned advocacy and lobbying as a physical therapist.
Oh, really?
And I really brought that work with me.
So advocating and lobbying really for your patients? In the care
at that time, it was for direct access. So there was a specific bill that we were trying, which is now in place.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
To allow direct access for physical therapists to not need a physician referral. But I learned about Albany. I learned about the fact that you're a constituent and you have a voice, and your elected officials need to listen to you or at least meet with you. And so that. And
how do you get them to meet with you, right? How do you get them to sit down and have a conversation?
Yep. I headed to Albany and I learned everything, and I continue it today.
In Albany, there's a lot of inner workings you have to navigate with in the state government and Albany itself and those relationships, and I'm sure that all helps you with everything you do today for Western New York Women's Foundation.
For sure.
What drew you to the Western New York Women's Foundation to take on this role?
Yeah, it was an opportunity, and I think, again, I saw what I could bring to the table. So I have a background in communication, and I'm taking that voice. I learned in my public health role, working for the state, about the importance of data and really culling the data, understanding, analyzing, and that's the root for the Western New York Women's Foundation. We've always been founded in data. We want to be the source of credible data around women and disproportionate impacts of issues on women. And so that was that connection. The advocacy piece is another one of our strategic pillars, and obviously knowing that I could advocate and in fact lobby for advanced funding, advanced policy, and drive that to this region to better women in our community was a piece of it. And really passionate about uplifting women and equity kind of across the board.
Yeah, it's here we are in 2026, and you're still fighting for equity for women in the workplace and in the community, and how women are such drivers and such a force in the workplace too. But so often they get limited just because of their gender and their role as women, as wives, as moms.
Right. Yeah, and we also talk about intersectionality. So it's not only about gender, but then what happens when you're a Latino woman or a Black woman or a lesbian woman, and those layers of oppressions and marginalization that hold women back from their full potential of no fault of their own. It's really the systems that we've built. So the Western New York Women's Foundation focuses on systems, policy, and culture change so each woman can thrive, so our community can thrive. And so we do that in a number of ways, but really looking at that intersectionality and looking across the gamut of women and who they are and what they bring to the table.
And I think you bring up a good point too about culture too, and how culture can really affect women. It affects families, it affects everyone in the community, and it affects people differently. But how do we lean into the culture too? Because each culture can bring such diverse strengths, thoughts, ideas to the community and to the workplace too.
Yes, and I think the companies that have been most successful, and the data shows this actually, are those companies that have really embraced diversity and embraced giving a voice to everyone at the table.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in Western New York Women's Foundation, it was founded back in 1999, correct? And it started with the United Way of Western New York and the Community Foundation of Greater Buffalo.
Right. It's a great story. Arlene Caucus was CEO of the United Way of Erie and Buffalo, and Gail Johnstone was the CEO of the Community Foundation. independently recognized there was not enough focus or funding in our community going toward women. Women currently are about 52% of our population. In the city of Buffalo, over half the households living in poverty are single mother head of households. And no one was paying attention to any of this. No one was elevating, amplifying the data or the information. And so they tell the story that they came together and said, hey, we both discovered this. Do you want to each do our own thing? Or do you want to work together?
Yeah.
And at that time, everyone did their own thing. And so they really looked at it as a paradigm shift when, as they tell the story, it took about 20 seconds for them to say, we're doing this together.
Yeah, like we're stronger together, so let's do it together.
And the rest is history. And we operated under them for a number of years. And then it was really clear that the foundation and the principles behind the fund at the time were ready to move on to be independent. And that also allowed us to have an independent advocacy voice. And so we became our own 501c3 and
awesome.
Continue to be, we were started by women, we are continue to be governed by women, and continue to be reliant on the community for support of the organization.
And I think you need all hands on deck as a nonprofit working to help advocate for women in the community and bring equity to women. You need all hands on deck from different people, different corners, different government officials to really bring light to what needs to be done to get work done.
Yeah, and I think our data shows what the really significant issues are, and there's so many that disproportionately impact women. And how do we lead? How do we coalesce? How do we convene key stakeholders to make decisions that change that direction? Early on, I had learned of a childcare subsidy program that allowed working parents to earn a little bit more than the county level of eligibility, but to receive some assistance with childcare. We drove policy changes in Albany in 2016 to add Erie County to, I believe, 7 other upstate counties at the time. And then we had to drive funding. So drove $500,000 for a number of years, and over the course of 2016 to 2022, we drove about $6.5 million to this community for working parents to get support.
So that's
an example of looking at a problem, bringing the right people together around the solutions. And in that time, it was a Senate-driven program. Pat Galvin was our senior-most person in the party of majority, and he was part of moving that forward for us.
That's awesome. I love how you talk so much about the data behind the West New York Women's Foundation. Tell me more about that. Like, where are you getting the data from? How's it helping you drive decisions?
Yeah, so originally in 2010, we hired the UB Regional Institute to put together the first ever Status of Women and Girls in Western New York. And they did an amazing job. It was original research and curated research. And they created 5 women that depicted the 5 issues that had bubbled to the top. Maria was an adolescent girl, not having quality out of school time. Mrs. Williams was a senior adult. And Gina was the single mother living in poverty. And that then really drove the work of the foundation in terms of our strategic initiatives. So they looked at Gina, the single mother living in poverty, and said, what are people doing? And no one was doing anything. And so then they used the data and focus groups and national research to create Moms from Education to Employment, which is now a trademarked program that began at a community college level to help single parents complete their community college education, because that was what you need to get a family sustaining wage job. And that was incredibly successful at SUNY Niagara.
Awesome.
And then in 2016 we added SUNY Erie, and 2018 JCC, Jamestown Community College, which has a huge program down there. They have about 150 students that we continue to support.
Wow.
And then we in 2020, during COVID, we had an opportunity to create a women's economic mobility hub. And what we did is we took the MOMS program and we moved it to the workforce certification program, because now, as in your business, there were certification programs that allowed people that were high wage, high demand, which is always the key. And we were able to put them into certification programs in primarily healthcare, but to layer on the support of what's now called the Empower program, from education to employment. And again, very successful retention and graduation and employment rates there. We're always trying to use that data in a way that really helps us focus any of the strategic efforts that we do or any of the advocacy that we do, and to amplify that data in opportunities like this.
It sounds like you're removing a lot of barriers too with these programs. You think about education to employment. If someone doesn't have an opportunity or doesn't know what the opportunities are that are available to them so they can get their education, they can get a job. Right. They feel more empowered, which I think I love the title of that program. They feel more empowered when they have some of the barriers removed for them and they can go through those programs.
And that's one of the biggest things we see in particular in that population is that many women have never had anyone say, I believe in you. Or you can do this, or you know what, you did this, and now let's keep going. If you completed a certified nursing assistant program, go to work, be a great employee, continue to learn, and let's get you into an LN or LPN program, or let's get you into an RN program. And to watch the personal growth of these women over time is just incredibly heartening. And we have moved about 3,000 women through either the college or the workforce program since 2014, and there's a lot more work to do.
I'm sure, but it just a lot of times when you talk about the population too, and just not even know what their path was, maybe they never see someone do that before them. Right. They might be the first person completing an education program, completing a certification, and then they just feel so much more empowered. Yeah. Again, and just have that more confidence to continue to pursue other opportunities in their life. Yeah. Too.
Yeah, it's magical. It really, when you go to a graduation and just see, you can just see the pride, and you can see the pride of the family. We've had a couple of families now where grandma was a CNA, right? Mm-hmm. And now the granddaughter's graduating, and everyone just exudes incredible pride. That's awesome. It gives that family a moment of hope and opportunity, to your point. So yeah, our whole goal is how do we remove the barriers so that women can thrive and so we can create opportunities, whether it's through the Empower program, whether it's through amplifying the data, whether it's through our advocacy, or whether it's through All In, our Women in Leadership program.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's so many different opportunities that you are bringing to light for women in the community. Yeah. Now, you and I talked previously, before the podcast started recording, about childcare. Yes. And I'm sure as we're moving women through these programs, too, from education to employment, they're having families, they're having children. And childcare can be a huge barrier for not just women, but men and families as they're navigating working in building their lives and building their families. So tell me more about how the Western New York Women's Foundation used the data to understand the barriers of childcare in the community and advocating for it.
We have been in this space for a long time. So 20-some years ago, the Western New York Women's Foundation funded the first Quality Star programs in the region. So that's a state quality program for childcare. We funded 58 centers to raise the quality of the care. So when we talk about childcare, we talk about accessibility, can you find it? Affordability, can you afford it? And quality. And we also know that a huge part of the quality now is reliant on the people working there and the consistency. It's not healthy for children to have constantly the adults in their life that they trust changing. Unfortunately, everything in childcare is broke right now, beginning with the compensation system for childcare providers or educators. So they're taking care of our most vulnerable adults, as are our senior caretakers. Right. And they're paid the lowest 3% of all occupational wages in the state. Wow. So over half childcare providers actually qualify for public assistance benefits because they earn so little, even though they're working full-time and really hard work.
Really hard work. It's very challenging to take care of those little kiddos.
Yeah. So our space is to raise awareness and then to advocate for very specific policies that move us toward a more universally accessible system. We've gotten the state to increase the eligibility for the subsidy program significantly. Unfortunately, they're out of money. We get to this point where more and more parents are eligible for childcare subsidy and they have a very low, it used to be 35% family pay, copay. Now it's 1%. Max. Oh, wow. It was 200% of federal poverty level eligibility. Now it's 85% of state median income, which is somewhere about $150,000 a year for a household. And so we've done great things to increase the eligibility.
Huge, yeah.
Except there's no money left in that pool. So Erie County, for example, has a wait list of well over 300 parents. We heard from one of the parents recently who said between her and her husband, they have 5 college degrees. They did everything they've always been told to do. They worked hard. They went to school. They're good employees. They were slightly over income eligibility when both parents are working. Husband lost his position. Now they're eligible for subsidy. They take their paperwork down to the county and they say, sorry, wait list, no money.
No.
And so now you have a highly educated male, in this case, staying at home to care of his child, and the family is really scraping to get by on one income. So the childcare system is really broke, and it really, if you think about infrastructure, if you think about the roads you need to get to work, you need childcare. You can't.
Absolutely.
We saw this during COVID. Your kid doesn't take care of himself.
No.
And we have this private system in the first 3-4 years of a child's life of education, at a time when the child's brain is most developing. First 3 years is 85% of your brain growth.
Wow.
And yet we have a private system. So only those who can afford and find childcare are able to put their child in an enriching, literary, developmentally appropriate experience. Yeah. Those that don't, the child isn't getting that, and the parent is not able to work because someone has to stay home for the safety of the child. Right? Yeah. So it just really is broke. It's
children and people back.
Yeah.
Years.
Yes, for sure. We work a lot with the Canadian childcare system, and they had a universal system in Quebec, and now actually during COVID they did it across the country. They just shared a recent study with us where their universal childcare system is so reliable for families that it's showing that women are no longer in this series of underpaid, low income, kind of part-time jobs, but that they're actually significantly more in professional career tracks. That's amazing. Which is what we need.
Right.
As businesses, we need as our economy. Again, then they make more, they pay more payroll taxes. It comes back
all coming back system, around. Right?
Yep. We have fallen short as a country, right? We're the only industrialized nation without paid family leave. We happen to have that in New York State, which we were part of the advocacy around. That's great. But as a nation, we don't have it. And so to say, okay, this is what families need to develop to have a healthy family and develop healthy children, which is our workforce of the future, and you'll be recruiting
soon. Someday.
Then we don't have that system in place at all. As parents sitting around a kitchen table trying to figure out what they're going to do, or coming to the very difficult decision that someone's going to drop out of the workforce, and then who loses, right? The family loses, so they have less income, and that employer loses, our economy loses.
Exactly. It all is a snowball effect, really.
For sure.
And I think, it's hard for people, parents who want to start a family. Sometimes they make a decision. Can we afford to start a family? Right. Can we afford to keep our jobs and do childcare? And what do we do? How do we take care of our children? Right. And sometimes you look at families, and if they're lucky to have grandparents in town or other family members that can help take care of your kids, but it's a lot of juggling on working parents to make those decisions. The couple you mentioned before that have 5 degrees between the two of them, it's so hard for me to understand, why are they in that position? They shouldn't have to make those decisions. And unfortunately, when the father lost the job, kind of was all right, here we are. Now it makes sense for me to stay home, but now we're scraping and struggling on one income.
And they had to pull the child out of childcare, which he'd established relations, the young child, established relationships, established friendships, had that socialization, had that structured education, developmentally appropriate activities. And now, not that dad isn't wonderful, but the kid lost his friends, lost the adult figures at the school, and so again, no one wins. And then the childcare providers lose that parent, and so they have to fill with someone else, which is not a challenge because we don't have enough supply. But
it's hard to staff in that industry, like you said, because it's not a great wage too. So that makes it harder too to attract people that really are going to be great child care providers.
We always say a budget, so in this case the state, is a moral document. And so if we look at how we devalue women's work, women are primarily the caretakers, children, older adults, disabled individuals. It has its roots actually back to slavery and the fact that there was an expectation, we didn't pay for that, and now women are in those positions, and we still think it's okay to not pay.
Yeah.
And again, you think about the difficulty of work that our CNAs are doing in nursing homes or that our childcare educators are doing. It is some of the most sacred and difficult work and important work out there, but we don't value it, and so we don't compensate it.
And you think about, you mentioned 3-year-old brain. It's becoming 85% developed at that point.
Right.
They're learning how to socialize. They're learning how to learn from other adults and follow rules.
Yeah.
And that's so important, I think, for children as they're growing up to have those skill sets. And it's not just education, but it's those social skill sets too.
Huge piece.
I always say that. I'm like, it's so important for kids to be around other kids, learn how to interact, be around other adults besides their parents.
Sure.
So they learn how to follow rules, listen to another adult, and develop that respect.
And I think as a business, childcare businesses are struggling and they're closing.
Yeah.
We had a woman last week that we talked to, and she had 3 centers. Now she's down to 2. I know someone else who had 4 that is down to 1, and half her classrooms are closed because she can't staff them.
So really they're closing because of staffing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that all trickles back to compensation. So it all trickles back to childcare subsidy. That system pays the business owner a portion of what's called a market rate. It's not your actual cost. If it costs you $100 a day per child, you maybe get $55 a day per child.
Right.
Well, that's really hard to make a business last.
Oh yeah,
right,
that's hard to budget. It's very
and there's
difference.
These ratios. It's not, I always use the example, if I own a pizzeria and minimum wage goes up or the cost of gasoline goes up and my product goes up, I raise the cost of your pizza. I don't know if you've tried to buy pizza lately, but they are outrageous.
It's so crazy how expensive pizza is these days.
In childcare, you can't do that.
Right.
If I'm charging you $100 a day for a kid or $100 a week for a kid, I can't raise that. And I can't add, there's these ratios, right? So you need a certain number of adults for safety reasons, right? Number of adults per child. So there's no way to bring in 10 more kids. You can't do that without bringing in more staff.
Right.
And then the other issue that's coming in up now is with pre-K4. The school districts are getting that money and they're supposed to share with community-based organizations. They're keeping it, or when they do share, they're not sharing all of the money. So instead of getting $10,000 a kid per year, they're giving the child care provider $8,000 a kid. And basically the child care provider is saying, we can't do this. So then that district has less child care slots. So it is a vicious circle, as you said, of no one winning. Yeah. And I've often said to our legislators, let's just rip the Band-Aid off here, right? Let's fully fund the child care subsidy program as a starting point. Let's figure out how to build our capacity and our infrastructure. We now know that women are leaving the workforce at a more rapid rate than any time in the last 40 years.
Wow.
Women's workforce participation is down. Women's pay gap is up, just as an additional issue. And that's a society moving backwards, right? So we have these there's more women in college, there's more women in law school and doctors.
Absolutely.
And yet we have less women entering the workforce, which means they're getting these degrees, they're qualified to be working, and they're not because the system is not supporting them to do that.
And let's talk about the money they spent on their degrees too, and probably the student loans they
Student
have.
loans,
It just keeps like the layers just keep adding up and really working against to be successful and advance their careers and support their family and raise their family. Right. It's really interesting to me when you think about the cost of childcare. You talked about the cost of pizza and that going up. I mean, the cost of childcare is going up too. I saw on the Western York Women's Foundation website in 2019 it was about $7,800 a year, and then in 2022 it was up about $18,000 a year.
Yeah, we were using 15 not too long ago, and I think now we're using 17 or 18, and some areas are 24. So there's actually facilities in this area who are at $24,000 a year per child. And again,
per child.
They're not per child, and they're not making money. They're trying to get by. Again, these ratios and the regulations. The other thing we heard from a child care provider community is their cost of insurance has doubled. There's providers that have gone from paying $5,000 a year to $30,000 a year. They're going to close their door when that happens.
Such a huge increase.
It's not happening. So insurance has gone up. Food has gone up. Minimum wage has gone up twice since the last increase in their market rate.
But it's still not a lot, right?
Yeah. So they got a little bit more in the market rate, and now minimum wage has gone up twice. That's not
it's not enough.
Nothing accommodated in that rate for those 2 raises.
Right.
So it's all of these things. It's not childcare is this business to be in because you make a ton of money.
Oh my gosh, no.
And so, yeah, the rates continue to go up and just are out of, you think about 2 children, and that's easily a salary.
It's easily a salary. And that's why parents are forced to make that decision of, do I stay home with my kids?
Right.
And it's like pretty much a wash of like, I don't have my salary, but I'm
Right.
not spending that money on childcare.
Right.
When it's kind of like a break-even point if I'm working just to pay the childcare bill.
Right.
It's a hard decision.
It's a very hard decision.
And when you think about people who leave the workforce, and once their kids get to school age and maybe don't need as much attention during the day. Well, not that they don't need attention during the day, but they're at school. They're on that schedule. They're on the school schedule. And then trying to re-enter the workforce. Now, there's different barriers there to re-entering the workforce as well.
It's a whole nother, and especially with the speed of technology. So what we see with women most often is the feeling of technological ineptness, and maybe rightly so, and they don't have the connections. The other thing is women drop out of the workforce and it affects their retirement. So they haven't put that money into retirement or into Medicare and Social Security, and so down the line it affects them.
And sometimes I don't even think about that.
No.
I just had this conversation the other day about not working now when you're at an age when you can work. You're not contributing to retirement.
Right.
Like, sometimes I think it's just off people's radar.
Right. No, you don't think about it.
No,
and then,
but it's so important.
Right. And the other thing we see, which is just enraging, is something called the mommy penalty, which is all of the data actually shows that when women are in the workforce, mothers are in the workforce, they actually are paid less. When fathers or when males in the workforce become fathers, they actually are compensated additionally because there's this bias of they need to take care of their family. So pay gap widens, and this is all, it's all data. It's all, I don't make this stuff up. I wish I did, but it's very real. So women are in the workforce. They're trying to balance being full-time mothers. One of the things that paid family leave has done in this state, and it was why we supported, because it showed in other countries that if men are encouraged to take paid family leave, to take paternity leave early on, they become more involved in a child's life and in that schedule and in that figuring out, oh, childcare just called and they have a fever, I have to go pick them up. And they become part of that, which is not traditional. It's just not the way. Right. And so
it's good to see that,
that's
though,
improving.
That's changing.
It's improving, but nonetheless, some 80 to 90% of home responsibilities, if you will, the data shows fall upon women. So they have a full-time job and the full-time child rearing, full-time household chores, if you will.
Duties, right.
So it's difficult. It's really difficult. And I think the other issue is that the stress, so the research has shown that a child's brain is highly susceptible to parental stress, and in particular financial stress. And there was a clip called Raising of America. It was about 11 minutes and part of a longer series. And it showed that initial financial stress impact on a newborn baby's brain. And that actually was some of the genesis of some of the initiatives that we did to try to have companies understand that.
That's interesting.
The more flexibility, instilling paid family leave, provides that de-stressing opportunity, that healing opportunity, that bonding opportunity. That makes for a healthier kid, and a healthier family as things move on, and then a better employee. And
I think that's huge. You think about an employee feels supported at work, and they feel like they can be there for their family and support their family. They're gonna be a better employee. They're gonna be more loyal to your company. When they're working, they are focused on their work.
Absolutely.
And I think you've seen that a lot of that shift, like just even since COVID, when a lot of companies went remote, or people working hybrid, they're working at home, kids are home doing remote learning, and there were some blurred lines around that work-life balance and childcare.
I always say working full-time and having your child at home is not exactly an answer for childcare. So
no, not at all. I know working parents who are like, I cannot be at home when my kids are home because I will not get any work done, so I need to be in the office. But I tell
Zooms when the kid pokes the head out from
always
the desk. It's okay. How's that working?
I know. And you feel empathy for them, right? They're trying to manage both, and it's hard. I tell a lot of my clients, if they even have 100% in-office policy, which is fine. We're seeing a lot of companies, not only in the area, but across the state, across the country, go back to in-office. But having some flexibility. If a parent has a sick kid at home, and they don't have childcare, they need to work from home for that day, and you have the capability to do it, you'd hate to see them use their PTO for that, when they can easily be at home. The kid's probably sick on the couch or in bed, not bothering them. But just having some flexibility around some of those boundaries too is helpful to encourage your employees, be there for them, support them, and then they are going to be that much more loyal, dedicated employee.
Yeah, I think COVID was the big wake up for particularly men in leadership positions, which is 3/4 of our leadership positions, to go, oh wow. There were some local companies who turned their boardrooms into childcare centers, and some of the staff were like taking care of the kids. Like they all of a sudden got it. School age kids are usually in school, and that's why mom or dad can work, and now they can't.
Right.
Again, it's a societal issue. Childcare is not a woman's issue, and none of these things are women's issues. They're issues that disproportionately impact women.
Correct.
But they are societal issues. They are problems for all of us because it doesn't benefit our economy, doesn't benefit the health of our community, and certainly for businesses. It's
detrimental.
Understanding that flexibility. Unfortunately, the data has shown that productivity initially increased with remote work, and then it didn't. And then I think it's tough with my own staff. It's, listen, we need to be in space together. So we have a couple of remote days, and then we have days when we're together. But to your point, if someone's like, hey, I think I'm coming down with the flu, we're like, hey, stay home and work remote.
Please don't get the rest of us sick.
And you would love to have them there, or the dog's sick, or the kid's sick, or whatever it is. But it allows them to continue to work and be productive. And again, there has to be parity with that, right?
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, the challenge for many companies is that person does it all the time, and this person isn't doing it, and so that raises some other
we're aligned. And I think that's easier for some industries than others.
Yes.
Healthcare industries really don't have the option to work remotely. Manufacturing facilities, you have to be on the manufacturing floor, manning those machines. So there's some challenges there with that still, of course. But just I think having some flexibility and understanding from benefits that you allow your employees. Maybe stay home with a sick child.
We work, so our fourth strategic initiative is trying to advance women into positions of leadership. And again, women hold about 25% of the leadership positions, and there's a number of components in that program, both for women, for men. We have an amazing Men as Allies group that are incredibly intentional in learning, and we've shared the data, and we've shared stories, and really excited about what's going to happen with that for this community.
That's really cool.
But we also have something we work just with employers on, to your point, 30 metrics that they can make their company a better place for women to work and to grow by looking at these evidence-based metrics around a number of different issues, and there's 4 different categories. So it does come down to, what does your policy look like? What does your practice look like? How does that impact the culture?
Right.
And then what does that look like for the employee?
And culture in the workplace is huge. That's how you're attracting employees to your organization. That's how you're retaining your employees. Right. And it's just going to help the cycle of supporting your employees.
For sure. If we could have on-site childcare at every employer. And we only have 3, actually, in Western New York.
Oh, really?
That's it.
Wow.
Rich Products has had a childcare vendor in there for years. Again, great model. They provide the space, independent vendor. Larkin, when they built, put space in there, and again, offset the cost for the childcare provider so they can retain staff. And then we actually were part of helping Greenfield's community in Lancaster to stand up a child care center there. And that was, to your point, during COVID. Thankfully, they opened right before COVID.
Oh, good timing.
And that allowed them to keep nurses on the floor in the senior community because they had a place to bring their children. And Greenfields came forward and said, we'll pay any copay you have or anything like that. Just bring your kids and you go to work.
That's amazing. So, and we've talked about the 2 vulnerable populations, right? Yeah. The seniors and the children. So let's.
Right. I mean,
Greenfield is a perfect example of that.
You can't not take care of those people because the kids don't have anywhere to go. And actually, the kids interacting with the adults, with the older adults, is really special. And now they can again. They couldn't during COVID. But, but they do things outside. They do chalk things outside.
Oh, how cute! So, I love that, and this really brings such joy to the senior citizens.
It does. It's really amazing. And for the kids, they earn a respect of older adults. For sure. Which, often is ostracized in our community.
I know. So, that's awesome. What a great example right there.
But there's only 3. Of all the companies in Western New York, there's 3. And so I think that's, we have been working for a long time on a project on the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. Over 17,000 people. 80-90% are women. Healthcare related, need the nurses on the floor. One of the supervisors said to me, okay, the eclipse is when the eclipse was coming, and everyone decided to close school.
Oh, yes.
And they actually had to put a plan in place that they were like double staffed in case the eclipse caused chaos or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't know what's going to happen to the
They
eclipse.
have to be double staffed, but all the schools are closed. And they were like, what are we going to do? So we have really been working for a number of years on a unique sort of childcare, obviously longer hours, potential sick care. One of the agencies asked for drop-in care for both patients and my care fell through that day. Can I bring my kid? So we're really hoping to bring that to fruition.
That would be amazing.
In the next year or so. We did a selection process based on quality, and the Jewish Community Center was selected for that. So
awesome.
we need to get a little bit more funding and then just make the rubber hit the road and get that moving. But it has taken our leadership to continue to keep that project because, quite frankly, most of the institutions were very male-led and they just weren't seeing the importance of it. So I think as more women are leading, as younger men are coming into leadership positions, we're getting this, let's ask about childcare.
I hate to say it's buy-in, but it's a little bit more buy-in.
Yeah, and I've had guys go, gee, I never thought about childcare.
Right.
And this is a whole shift. And especially when you talk about keeping nurses on the floor, it's critical.
It'll be a game changer community to have something like that there because healthcare, specifically on the medical campus, is such a huge economic driver and a huge employer between the different hospitals that are there for so many in this community. And like you said, so many women. Yeah.
And then it serves as a model, right? So word has gotten out, so we have a couple of large employers who are like, hey, we want to do something.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, let's figure out this model and what it looks like and make it work. And then can we begin to duplicate that, maybe smaller? Can we begin to continue to do that build out? The mayor is interested in childcare as a workforce support and economic driver. Certainly we've got a lot of legislative support. Crystal Peoples-Stokes I went to visit her and she had her granddaughter in her office because childcare was closed that day. It literally was closed that day because of a technological issue. So here's the majority leader of the assembly.
So she's got these.
So she's all over it.
She understands childcare and helping support her family.
Right.
Yeah.
And all the administrators that on campus are super supportive. So fingers crossed we can bring that around the pike. So
that would be awesome. Western York Women's Foundation, on your website, you offer a lot of resources around the data. There's white papers.
Right.
Tell me about how that is helping you do the work you do every day.
Yeah, so we have this amazing part-time knowledge management person, and she sits quietly and calls the data. So we're not doing any original research. The research and the data that comes out of our Empower program and those women and continuing to follow them up, that is our original kind of data and research. But she takes just an enormous number of sources around the nation and Canada and looks at that data and then by subject area. So we have 87 pages just on our internal fact sheet of if I'm going to talk about occupational segregation, what does that look like? And of course we have the white paper. So I mentioned the 2010 report. We did another report on the status of women and girls in 2017. And then in 2025, we did 8 reports. We did actually more than that, but we looked at 25 years ago when we started, where were certain things, where were they today, and then where might they be 25 years from now. And what was clear is, even 25 years from now, we are not at parity, we're not at equity, we are still kind of handcuffing our society.
25 years from now.
From now.
We're not talking from 2001 to 2026.
No.
We're talking.
So we did
2051 or 2052, whenever that might be. Wow.
So that's there. And then each of those areas she did a deep dive into. So education, leadership, pay gap, occupational segregation, childcare, and I'm going to forget one, poverty, which is eye-opening. And so there's a deep dive into each of those in the white papers. And then we did a summary of those. We're about to launch Women in the Workforce because there's really significant data around women in the workforce and the loss of women in the workforce. I think we need to call out.
Right,
and
absolutely.
Then benefit cliff is another piece that we're doing a lot of research into. So we do try to be the source of data about women and girls, but for stakeholders, for decision makers. So we tell the elected officials, use it if you need to give a speech. We tell the media, we do a lot with the media. We do a lot of interviews, and They like it because the data's there. We're based on data.
Yeah.
And we can add the stories from women that we've had the honor of interacting with, but we always root it in that data.
I love it. I think stories are so impactful.
Yeah.
They resonate with people.
Mm-hmm.
You might hear a story and be like, that's just what I'm going through. But when you have the data to really back it up,
Right.
that takes the story to a whole other level.
Yeah.
And that's where you really drive the impact with government officials. You need
Right.
to interact with the legislatures, lobbyists,
Right.
whoever it might be, to help move forward.
Yeah. And we know part of our work, again, is just changing minds and hearts, changing how people think. And so last year we brought the CEO of the Gender Intelligence Institute to Buffalo for our leadership summit in May, which will again be this May 29th.
Awesome.
And she did a keynote, but then she met just with our men as allies and just with our C-suite, which are CEO level women leading large groups of people. And she talked about how men's brains actually really need that data. And given the fact that when we go to Albany, a majority of the elected officials are men and a lot of the media, we need to start by grounding there with that data. And then we can tell the story.
Tell the story.
And so
the black and white numbers.
Yeah, that's really been the value of us trying to remove those barriers in this community and really create a better community. Everything we do is altruistic because we really are looking at how do we improve this community for the people who live here.
Yeah, and that's so important. It starts at home. From everything we've talked about, it starts at home in Buffalo with Western Women's Foundation, but at home where women and men are building their families, building their lives and their livelihood.
Right.
And how can we remove those barriers of the pain points that they're dealing with every day? Yeah. Aside from childcare and advocacy, what are some of the resources that Western New York Women's Foundation provides for the community?
Yeah, so we try to be, the data is there, obviously. The Empower program is open. We're currently at Perscalis, EOC. We have a CNA program with Lineage Senior Care that we pulled together. Buffalo Center for Arts and Technology, SUNY Erie, Jamestown. So that program for a woman who's looking to continue her education in a supportive way. Again, we're not a service provider, but we have these partnerships. On the leadership level, for women new in their career, we have a program called Ready, Set, Lead, which is on its third cohort. Very successful program.
That's awesome.
It's 9 months. There's key educational sessions. This week is emotional intelligence.
So important.
And then they get a mentor. So it's strength-based. They get a strength assessment. They understand the strengths. They get a mentor for 6 months to work on very specific goals. They get a coaching session. And then we have a number of other programs. We have a women-owned business directory for entrepreneurs because women as entrepreneurs is the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs, and they are leaders in their own right. And so we have a women-owned business directory on our website that we encourage people to go to use. If you need a caterer, if you need a strategic planner, it's all that category. And we've been able to amplify that when we have events and people say, oh, we'd like some women-owned businesses here. We'll call them and the first 10 in go to that event. We just did that at Mamma Mia at Shay's.
Oh, awesome.
And we'll actually do it again at the Leadership Summit. That's from a point of leadership. And then we do have a resource list on our website that's basically where can I get help. We try to cultivate relationships with the helping organizations in the community, particularly around domestic violence. We are seeing a significant number of calls, unfortunately, around domestic violence. And we just brought New York State in to train us and some of our nonprofit partners. We brought all of the domestic violence organizations together a year ago to create a crosswalk to say, hey, if I get that call at 4 o'clock on a Friday, which one of you do I call? And so we try to provide supports for food insecurity, domestic violence, housing issues. That's all on our website.
That's great.
Where to get help.
All those resources.
And people can always call as well.
Awesome. And tell me more about the Leadership Symposium coming up in May.
So we're really excited. This is our, I think, 5th or 6th year. It's the Western New York Leadership Summit. It is at University of Buffalo Center for the Arts. We have UV's great partner with us. Last year we had 900 people.
Oh my gosh, wow.
That's
huge.
There's something for everyone. So there's 5 pathways. So you should be able to see yourself anywhere. You're an aspiring leader just starting out. You're an emerging leader, maybe the first 10, 15 years. You're an experienced leader. You're a CEO leading others, because we have learned very quickly that women as CEOs need support right now.
Yeah.
They say it's lonely at the top, but it's really difficult times. And then our men as allies, we call them leadership allies. And it is a morning program. It's a very low cost, high return sort of program. Last year we had 58 speakers across 13 sessions.
Oh my gosh.
In a span of 4 or 5 hours.
It's a lot of coordination.
That's really fun. And the power in just being together in community, right? All types of people, all walks of people, and men and women, and the theme this year is creating community. Like, how do we build and strengthen that community to support each other, to understand each other? We know when people understand themselves and their self-awareness and understand others, it creates so many opportunities. And a lot of companies come and bring people as a professional development opportunity, and then they can go back and talk about it. And would you learn in this pathway? And I learned this in this pathway. And how do we compare? We always survey individuals and companies to tell us what they think they need. So we're not just making it up.
Data.
And
goes back to the data.
All data. We've got all these spreadsheets of what everyone said, and then we develop the programming around that. And then we also hold people accountable. So they write some goals based on what they've learned. They have a journal throughout the program. They write some goals, and we send them back in 6 months and say, did you achieve these goals? If you didn't, are there things that we can do to try to help you?
Cool.
It's a really high energy, wonderful opportunity. At the end of May, it's May 29th. We're going from about 8 to 1:15 this year. And it includes a keynote. UB is bringing in 4 alums from around the country who have really amazingly accomplished that are going to be really fun to learn from.
That's awesome. Different paths, like different backgrounds.
Yeah,
that's
totally different
great.
backgrounds. And then we start out with breakfast and building community, a specific networking exercise. We go to the keynote, and then we have sessions for each of those pathways, again, based on topics they've said.
Right, yeah. I love that you said, like, this breakfast and specific networking, because I know people can get very nervous about networking, and it's important to do, no matter where you are in your career. Always build that network, build that community around you.
We did speed networking in the past. The aspiring leaders in particular continue to say, I need communication, I need networking, I need to figure out how to do that. I grew up behind a computer during COVID. And this will be forced family fun, right? We're not exactly sure what it'll look like yet, but how do we create an environment that welcomes people to interact and meet each other? I think one of the most powerful things that I love at the end of the event each year, I'm in the lobby cleaning up, right? And to watch people who have just met each other and the dynamics, and sometimes the panelists, like, they don't know each other and they go away like just having learned so much from each other.
I love that. Yeah.
So it's really fun.
That's amazing. I think it's so important to build that connection, build that community, and learn from each other. And if everyone's there for the same purpose, you're going to this full day event and growth opportunities, like, get something out of it. Make a connection. Even if it's just one. There's like power of one. Too.
Yeah, for sure.
And that might be a game changer in their life and in their career.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. And now it's March. It's Women's History Month.
Yes.
So I'm sure you are very busy.
We are.
Navigating that as well.
Yeah.
A lot on your plate.
Yeah, so we don't, because everyone else does so much, we try to support those. So I think we've got almost 30 events and different opportunities. And we have some opportunities to support other women's organizations by showing up in a number of different roles. And we want to pay reverence to the past. I think it also gives us an opportunity to say, this is the past and where are we now? I think about the suffragettes and the right to vote and Black women not getting that right for a long period of time after white women. And now we're looking at a time when that could all be rolled back. And so what's the advocacy we need to be doing to educate women right now about what the SAVE Act, for example, could impact? 69 million women would be thrown off the voter roll unless their ID matched their birth certificate, which most married women have not done, right?
Yes.
And we continue to advocate to make sure we're not rolling what women have worked so hard for backwards. And I think to be able to look at history is so important. Right here, they established a Shirley Chisholm monument in Forest Lawn a couple of years ago. And to think about what it took for her to step forward as a presidential nominee, a Black woman, many years ago. And we're still not there. We're still not there. So I think we have to look back and have a grounding in the past to build going forward.
Yeah. Hear the stories from history to help us move forward. Too. Sheri, thank you so much for joining us on the Pain Points podcast. If someone wants to get in touch with you in the Western New York Women's Foundation, how can they get in touch?
The best way is through our website. So it's WNYWomen'sFoundation.org.
Perfect. And we'll be sure to be tagged in all of our communications and on the caption for the podcast as well.
Good. That's terrific. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're looking forward to continue to see
you at the summit.
Yes, we'll see you at the summit. First and foremost, but like continue to see the work that you do in the community to overcome the pain points that women and families and men are facing as we're building our lives in this community.
Is we go out of business, but right now,
no, I know. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime in the near future. But I think we're going to make some great waves along the way.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's fun.
Absolutely, and thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Pain Points Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Points Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to follow us so you never miss out on future episodes.